and welcome to the 50 Shades of Blonde show. We're on WCOBM.TV, the World Center of Broadcast Media. And with us is the infamous Rob Garrett, a.k.a. Neil Diamond on the Strip. And he made it in from the spaghetti bowl. Yay! So he's going to be with us. So first I just want to say welcome to the show and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And first I want to say I'm dying to know how I became infamous. Okay. Right.
Doesn't everyone know you?
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like everyone knows you.
But infamous is not a...
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it means that you did, you're famous for doing something not really, good.
Well, you entertain people.
Yeah, you entertain people.
That would be
there.
famous.
You make us laugh and be happy.
That would make me famous. That would make me famous.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Garrett.
All right.
How's that?
Thank you. I like that better. Yeah. Infamous would be like, Ted Bundy. That would be.
Well, that's bad.
Don't put yourself in.
I know that would be it, or Oswald or whatever, or the unfortunately the gentleman the crazy guy that just did what he did.
Yeah.
That would be infamous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just fabulous.
Yeah.
I like that. I'll take fabulous. I'll take. Yeah.
So on our first segment, we were talking about our tragedy that occurred in our city on October 1st, and so we wanted you on the show because I saw that you're doing a benefit concert for the families and the first responders, and so can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been living here for 43 years in Vegas, and I've been performing here 36. And so, and the thing was, I really, fortunately or unfortunately, I wasn't in town when it happened. We were an hour and 45 minutes away in Laughlin when we heard the news. Mm-hmm. I just finished our last night, and then someone had told us what happened. So, being a performer here for so many years, I just felt that I just needed to do something. Mm-hmm. It was just one of those things. I want to do something.
Right.
I mean, this has been my home for 43 years. I pretty much grew up here. And been performing here for a long time. So, and I have a lot of friends and peers and so forth. So I just one day on a whim, I put it on Facebook. I'm thinking about doing something with our local entertainers. To benefit the families of the victims and so forth. And I started getting quite a few responses and so forth. And then I hooked up with a lady named Iris Ayers that had an agency in this town for many, many years. And then we just started talking, and one thing led to another, and then we became a reality. The Silverton gave us their room.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's basically how
wonderful.
It happened. Yeah.
So it's going to be you, obviously, and then who else do you have currently that's going to be performing with you?
I mean, I'm going to roll off a few names, and we have some that are still checking their schedules to make sure, but people like me and Zoe Bowie and Tom Stevens and Justin Shandor, who's of Elvis. Course, Elvis, and works with me in American Trilogy. And Gary Anthony, who's my Sinatra, and Cookie Watkins, who's like the top. And even though I'm rolling off a lot of tribute acts, it's not all tribute acts, obviously, but I'm just doing the ones that come to my name.
Right.
In my mind immediately. Cookie Watkins, that is Tina Turner. Hattie Thompson, that does Cher. We're still waiting on Louis Anderson. We're waiting on Purple Rain, but it's a pretty long list.
That's amazing.
That's wonderful.
It's a pretty.
Is it like a 2 hour? Sorry.
No, the thing is, I wish it was 2 hours. Somehow we have to cover a 3 hour spot. So we're gonna. It's not just gonna be singers. There'll be comedians, a band, bands, and so forth. So yeah, we have 3 hours that we're supposed to cover. We have Mark Maynard, who does Frankie Valli, and so far, pretty much everyone wants to jump aboard.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We were just talking before you came on about how the community has really rallied over this incident, and so many businesses are just offering their services, and it's pretty awesome to see the way that the city's really, came together for this.
I'm very, very proud of the city. Like I said, I've I've lived here a long time, and obviously I've never experienced anything like this. I mean, the worst thing I can even imagine was the MGM fire, which I don't even know if you were here at the time, but that was the most tragic thing that ever happened in this town. So seeing something like this happen, just you want to give back. You know, this town's been very good to me. It's kept me working for a long time. You know, so I just felt a need to do something. You know, I wasn't sure whether it was part of somebody else's show or my own show.
Right.
I knew I needed to do something. You know.
Well, that's very cool. Thank you for doing that. So the proceeds are going to victims' families,
Yeah,
first responders.
Every penny is going to go to the families of the victims.
Oh, that's
Uh,
great.
Awesome.
You know, and that doesn't mean obviously just the deceased. It means the wounded as well.
Right.
Oh,
As wounded as well.
wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah.
So give us some more information. So it's going to be at the Silverton.
It will be at Silverton on November 3rd, which is a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
And the tickets are $30, right?
Yeah.
$30?
Yeah. Right now we have them set at 30. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
They may do a VIP, you know, and bump it up a little bit just for people that want to, you know, sit closer or feel that they, you know, and meet the performers after the show and so forth. But right now it's slated at $30.
Well, I know from going to see you at American Trilogy, you have quite a following of
Yes.
ladies.
We witnessed that.
Well, you know, when you figure you have, you know, you can't go wrong when you have Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley,
Right.
and Neil Diamond up there. You know, and that was a show that I wrote, and it was like divine intervention, because I've been a performer. I never considered myself a writer. So it's just something that came to me because I knew this country needed something, was in need of something patriotic. And then I started thinking of the three most American-related male artists and so
Right.
forth. So it was just something that came to me. And then I started talking to the other guys, and I said, that's a good idea. And then I just one day sat down to paper and I wrote a rough draft, and we put it together, and we did it. We got the venue to do it, and it's kind of ironed out all the, you know, the wrinkles and so forth, and now it's a scripted show that's embedded in stone. So, and we do it every year at the South Point, and we do it at other places. We've done it around the country too, but in Vegas, the South Point is our home, and we go back like at the end of June, because we always go back during the July 4th time.
Right.
And this year, because July 4th I think falls like on a Wednesday, we have to do the weekend preceding it, which is the end of June. So I just, what I knew is that I said, if you take these three guys, you know, the three of probably the three biggest American icons in history, and you put them on stage together, it can do no wrong.
Right.
You know, Frank and Elvis and Neil.
Right.
You know.
Especially, you know, for me, because I grew up in a house where my parents loved Frank Sinatra. I grew up, you know, listening to Elvis and Neil Diamond.
too.
Right.
And so it's a lot of things. It was an awesome show, but it brings back a lot of cool memories,
It
you know,
does.
from growing up.
Yeah, and then I had to fabricate things that never happened, you know, because we do duets, you know, and so I had to create duets. But I mean, we all do our solo spots, as you saw, but you saw us do duets as well.
Right.
So, and the only real duet that actually two of them actually happened, and Frank and Elvis sing Witchcraft, a medley of Witchcraft and Love Me Tender, which really did happen on Frank Sinatra's show when Elvis got out of the army. That really happened. And then Frank and Neil, on Frank's last album, which was Duets 2, Frank and Neil recorded a song that one of Frank's songs called The House I Live In, which is also a very Americana song. And even though they weren't in the studio together, and Frank wasn't in the studio with anyone. I mean, he went in and recorded his parts, and then when he did his duets, whoever it was, Celine Dion, or they Barbara, whoever, they went in and recorded their
Right.
parts. But you know, he had Neil obviously doing the patriotic song. You know, so you know, for some reason, because Neil wrote America, he's been branded as, you know, doing patriotic songs and so forth. And he is, you know, he's one of our last living true American icons.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
The Jazz Singer is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And so whenever I hear the song America, I always
Especially
get
America,
goosebumps.
yeah. You know, Sweet Caroline, America, and it doesn't get any,
That's right.
it doesn't get any more American than
That's
that.
right.
You know, yeah.
Well, and you can just see everybody lights up every
Yeah.
time everybody knew all the words, which is so awesome because everybody can participate.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially with Sweet Caroline, because that's probably like,
right?
you know, the most famous sing-along. You know, everyone strolls into their karaoke bar and
That's
and
right.
tries to sing it. You know. So which is good for me, and better for him.
Right.
And now it's in a Hyundai commercial.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
Which is playing nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
So and we do that at the end because with that song. The truth is, all three of them recorded it. Even though Neil wrote it and originally recorded it, Elvis sang it, and Frank sang it too.
Oh.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that
I
Elvis
didn't
sang
know
it.
that.
Elvis sang in a concert. Like if you watch the movie Elvis, that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in 1970, he was singing it in his whole tour.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he did a fantastic job. Yeah, it's Elvis. You know.
Yeah.
He was doing Sweet. He sped it up a lot, but he did Sweet Caroline. Yeah.
So let's talk a minute about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you decide that you wanted to do Neil Diamond, and then kind of go into that from where can we see you next?
Okay, I had my own band from 1980 to 1995. I had my own band here, and start just like any other band. We started out in bars, and then went to lounges and clubs, and migrated to, a couple of showrooms and so forth. The Caesar's Palace on the Barge, but. Because Neil, and it was my band, and we all sang, everybody sang, but if anyone was the lead singer, it was me. And because Neil Diamond was always one of my boyhood idols, I did a lot of his stuff. So when I would do his stuff, I would try my best to make it sound like him. And I would do that with anyone. If I was doing an Elvis song, I would try to make it sound like Elvis. I was doing a Dion song, I would try to make it sound like Dion. If I was doing a Billy Idol song, I would try to make it sound like Billy Idol. That was just something I tried to do, but it was the Neil impression that got a lot of attention. And then for years and years and years, I used to hear my audience say, when you sing his songs, you sound exactly like him. And they said, you should be in Legends in Concert. And I heard that for so many years, and then in '95, I auditioned for Legends in Concert. I said, I'm going to try this. I already had the band for 15 years, so pretty much had done anything with a local band one could do. We worked everywhere, but there's only so much you're going to get with a local cover band.
Right.
And I knew that the tribute acts, at least financially, made more than your typical band, and they worked less too, because with Legends, you do a 15 or 20-minute spot. So I auditioned for them and ultimately got the job. And I wanted the job here in town, but someone at the time, that you're talking '95, had seniority over me. So lo and behold, they sent me to Hawaii. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been
what a
awful.
That was god awful. And the thing was, it was supposed to be temporary for 3 months, and I was there for 3 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
And my boss was Paul Revere. Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, really?
He's the one that hired me because he was an owner. He was an owner in that show. He was one of the owners along with Jon Stewart and some other people. And he was the one that came out here to Vegas and auditioned me personally and hired me for Legends in Concert in Hawaii. And he said, "You want to come to Hawaii for a few months?" And obviously that took like
Yeah, if I have
a
to.
New
Yeah,
York
no.
second, for me to think about that one. But I thought I was going temporarily, and I ended up staying for 3 years. I ended up staying for 3 years.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And that started the whole. I never looked back after that.
Well, I'll tell you, at the show, when you come out in the blue sparkly shirt with the
Oh,
black
yeah.
pants,
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just like
It's a
I
jazz
saw.
singer, right?
Yes, and I saw Neil Diamond in the Hollywood Bowl like a long time
Yeah.
ago. And so when you came out and you were doing the whole thing, I mean, you got the mannerisms. You have everything just
Yeah.
nailed perfectly.
Really?
If
Thank you.
somebody closes their eyes, they would swear it
And I
was
did that,
really
by the
Neil.
way.
I'm even hoping they don't have to close their eyes. But the truth is they do, because these days I just saw him about 5-6 weeks ago for my 17th time, he bypassed Vegas. You know, he just did a 50-city tour. He's still on it, but overseas. And his last show in the USA was the Forum, LA Forum. So because he bypassed Vegas for whatever reason, we're still trying to figure that one out. So I went to LA to see him. And he's 76, so we don't look anything like each other anymore.
Yeah.
you know, we look nothing like each other. You know, so you know, I mean, my look is, like you said, more geared towards the jazz singer
Right.
look. And now he's, you know, he's still great. Look, he did 19,000 people 2 days in a row.
Oh,
you
wow.
know, so.
I watched your live. You did the Facebook Live from there.
Yeah, I did.
and
I
he
did.
sounds great.
He did. He sounded better than I've heard him sound in the last 10, 15 years. He did sound. He sounded fantastic. And again, you had 19,000 people screaming at him like he was the Beatles. You
Right.
know, like you're watching the Beatles or Elvis. You know, and so yeah, he was fantastic. He was fantastic.
So tell us where we can see you next.
The next places I'm doing the Sunset Station coming up, but they're only letting VIPs in for that. They're players and so forth. That's going to be coming up next week, a week from Saturday. But publicly, I'm going to be at the Starbite Theater on Veterans Day, you know, which is appropriate, you know, on November 11th, and then we'll be back. I'll be back at the South Point as Neil Diamond, not Trilogy, on December 1 and 2.
Okay.
Those are the public shows. In between, I've got some
So
close.
do you corporate and private
You're
stuff?
right.
And then give us the information one more time about the benefit concert.
The benefit concert is Friday, November 3rd, at the Silverton in the Vale showroom. Tickets are $30. You're going to see an array of some great local talent. A lot of people everybody knows. And what didn't I say? 7 to 10. 7
to
p.m.
10.
7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so
Awesome.
much for coming
Yes.
on, and this was all kind of like last minute, but I wanted to make sure, you know, we want to make sure you were on so you could tell everybody.
I know. I
about it.
appreciate so much you doing this. You know, you sent me a private message and you said, you can come on the show and talk about it and so forth. That was
Right.
very, very gracious of you.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
we
My pleasure.
appreciate it
Thank you.
very
Thank you,
much.
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.